Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mastermind Moments podcast.
Hosted by your pals, Josh and Sasha.
Join us during our weekly mastermind as we collaborate on how to make the most out of our lives.
Not only are we going to mastermind our careers, we're going to work on all areas of life together.
Let's do it. Listen in as we make the most of our mastermind moments.
Hi,
Hello.
how's it going?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Good. It's been a long time, but it also hasn't been a long time because we've been voice messaging and
And not just voice messaging, we've been sending 20 minutes worth of voice messages back and forth. So it's not like we've had a lack of each other over the last couple of weeks.
it's true, it's true. Typically, I send you, like, a voice message every Friday, but I was so busy traveling this weekend that I ended up sending one to you Sunday, and Josh was like, "I was so surprised. Where was my Friday message?" But you got it on Sunday, so we've been and it was funny because everything we were chatting about, I was like, "Oh, I gotta save this for the pod. I gotta save this for the pod." I wanna talk about things that are private to our friendship on our, like, little spin-off, but there's so much we can chat about here, but there was so many things that you talked about in your voice message
Yeah,
that I was like,
literally.
"This belongs on a t-shirt, and we should definitely chat about it."
Belongs on a
So
t-shirt. There was so much. I think I told you this. I sent the voice message, like, it was 17 minutes or something, and the moment I sent it, I was like, "We should have talked about this on the podcast," like, all of this stuff.
yeah.
Now we have nothing to talk about.
No, but I definitely wanted to go deeper into
Of course.
everything we talked about because it was I mean, everything on your side, everything on my side, there was so much to go you just gave me, like, the overview, but I'm really curious to dig deeper. Let's just get into our first segment really fast. Let's spin a wheel.
Okay.
Physical health. What dietary changes have had the biggest impact on your health?
Ooh, wow. Can we fire that question at you first?
Yeah, I have one. I went to the Tony Robbins Life and Wealth seminar in January, and one thing that was really profound to me was starting to read the labels on the back of every product I'm buying. And I know it's probably better in Europe because you guys have a lot of laws and regulations about what they can and cannot put in your food. But the US, it's everything is allowed, even stuff that's really horrible for you. And I started reading the backs of all of the ingredients. And I was like, what is half this stuff? What is it? Like, not even just the sugars and it's not just refined sugar, which is in everything, it's the processed seed oils that are really horrible for you that are in everything, and then also just ingredients you don't recognize, like words that are 20 letters long, and it's that I don't even know what that is. That's just chemicals and
It's
poison.
so
So,
bad.
when I started reading the backs of everything, now I'm when I at least eat at home and when we grocery shop and eat at home, everything is I have to understand every ingredient that's on the back, and, like, it has to come from the earth, and if it's not, then I don't buy it, but when I'm out and I'm a little bit more flexible, but that's what's been the biggest change for me.
There's a lot of, fitness or, like, health influencers at the moment who have a similar mindset, and their whole thing is preaching about, "Look at the ingredients on the back of what you're buying." Because if you actually look at it, it's disgusting. There's so many different you look at a pack of chicken and there's 20 different ingredients, but what should be in a pack of chicken? Chicken, nothing else,
Yeah,
right? And it's the
yeah.
same with bread. Bread should be 3 different ingredients, but actually you look at the ingredients on what you're buying in these supermarkets and it's 20 different things. It's really bad. So I started doing something similar a few months ago, but then I fell off with it because I was like, I miss just not worrying about the food that I eat, but then it is a problem. It's a real and I think it's largely why we've had such an increase in cancer cases and severe health issues and chronic, health conditions, and it really is a big problem.
Yeah, it's ginormous, and once you start getting into the habit of it, you can never go back, and every I'm not I'm I try to be someone who doesn't shove my health priorities onto somebody else. But I was at my mom's house and I was telling her that I was doing this thing and I was just giving her an example. I was like, I opened her fridge and she was like, she had this thing of soup and it said organic and there's still a ton of stuff in it, even though tomato soup should just be tomatoes. maybe like basil or something.
That's
And I was like,
gross.
there's processed oils, there's sugars, there's blah, blah, blah. And she's, oh my God, I didn't even realize. And now she texted me, I'm checking the labels of everything and it's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
disgusting.
it's so gross. Anyway,
So,
getting to the meat of the episode,
yeah.
unless you have more to say.
I also had one, and I was thinking about this while you were talking about what I've cut out, and I guess it kind of counts, and we spoke about this last time we spoke. After my birthday, I stopped drinking, and of course, you would fully understand the benefits of this. I have seen such massive benefits, and we can talk about this in more detail later on. How I went out last Friday and I didn't drink, and I haven't had a single drop of alcohol since my birthday, so we're talking almost 3 weeks now.
Yeah,
And I feel fantastic. I feel
yeah,
better than I have in genuinely years from a health perspective, from a mental clarity perspective, from all these different side effects. Yeah. So cutting out alcohol has been a really big thing for me over the last 3 weeks. And I really have started to see the benefits. It was tough the first week or two, but I think everyone always says with alcohol, if you can get through the first month, that's always the hardest. And once you're past that point, it's smooth sailing and you'll really start to see all the benefits, and I think I already am starting to see the benefits, so it's a big thing.
yeah. And I mean, honestly, just that was something I wanted to chat about in the main course of the episode. Was Josh told me about this story that happened this past weekend or 2 weekends ago or something with alcohol, and I mean, I'm so proud, but I'd love you to share again, and let's go into more depth about the process of when you set a goal for yourself and when you're met with resistance.
Yeah.
Internally and externally, what does that look like, and how did you overcome that? Because the story you told me was really amazing, and just cutting out alcohol, yeah, the first month is really difficult because you're like, "Oh, I'm at this occasion." I think I told you, and I think I said on this podcast, I went to a wedding and they poured Sprite in my champagne glass, and I was like, "This is lame." So it's stuff like that where it's these occasions where you wanna share a drink with somebody, where these external and internal pressures come to play, and it's like, how do you overcome that, and how do you stay strong on your goals even when you're met with challenges? Because it's easy to do it at home, but it's harder to do it when you're out and about. So, yeah, say more about that. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so the story is, I mean, I've done this drunk bingo thing a few times before, and it's called Bongo's Bingo, so it's not technically drunk bingo, but everyone knows that you have to be plastered to enjoy it, right? So, it was my friend's birthday, one of my best friends, Theo. It was his birthday, and he'd planned this, like, months ago. And he'd always said to me, because I told him that I was planning on stopping drinking after my birthday, and he said, "Just wait until my birthday. Just let's have one big bang, one big blowout, right?" And I was like, "No, I'm definitely gonna quit. I'm definitely stopping after my birthday." So his bingo thing comes, which is last Friday, and I was the first to arrive. And to be honest, like I was in a really good place mentally all week. I was thriving. I was feeling really good about myself, feeling really confident. And I was really looking forward to being put in that environment and challenging myself to almost have as much fun as I would drunk, but sober, completely sober. And I arrived and I was the first to arrive there. And I was waiting for about 10 minutes until anyone else arrived. So I was sitting at the table by myself, these bright lights and lasers shining everywhere, this loud music blasting. And I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. And in that moment, I texted my girlfriend and I texted her, I was like, I can't get through this night without drinking. She was on her way. And she is always going to stop me from doing things that I'm trying, to stay away from, like gambling. And now she knows I want to stay away from drink and drugs. And so she was against the idea, of course. But I was like, I can't. Like, I'm just gonna have to buy a bottle of wine. And I said, I'll wait until you arrive and I'll wait until
I'll just
people.
have to buy a bottle of wine.
It wasn't like 1 glass. I said that's the other thing I said to her because she was like, "Oh, why don't you just have a sip of someone else's wine?" Yeah, and then that's your alcohol taste is sorted for the night. And I was like, "No, because if I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna drink, right? I'm
Yeah,
gonna get,
yeah.
drunk." So everyone starts to arrive and I start to feel a little bit better, but I was feeling just too low on energy to enjoy it. So I went up to the bar and I literally stood there with my girlfriend Savita and we were going to get a bottle of wine to share between 2 of us, and she was very against the idea, and I was standing there at the bar, and I was like, "I can't bring myself to do it. I can't. I'm meant to be doing this big thing, for myself, for my health, for so many for my finances, for so many different reasons. I can't bring myself to do it. I know I'll feel so disappointed in myself tomorrow if I buy this bottle of wine. If I even have a drop of alcohol tonight, I'll feel disappointed in myself. So in that
Yeah.
moment, I decided to buy a Coke instead. And that really perked me up. I think it was just a bit of hydration that I needed, a little bit of sugar maybe that I needed,
Yeah,
that bit of
sugar,
little bit
caffeine,
of a boost. Caffeine,
something to hold.
I was thinking also maybe Red Bull, but I think caffeine is probably a little bit on the strong side. I wanna stay away from caffeine as well.
Yeah,
So I went for sugar, a little bit of sugar, which is actually quite a lot in Coke, but anyway. I took it back to the table, I felt much better, and the event started, and I just got into the swing of things. I decided to fake it till you make it, which I think is something that I've really lived by over the last couple of years, 'cause if it
yeah,
works, it does work, and we've spoken about this before. And I had a fantastic time. I had such a
yeah.
good time, and it was literally just the mental shift of not allowing myself to buy that drink, 'cause I knew that I'd feel really proud of myself the next morning if I didn't drink, and I'd feel really let down if I did drink, and I'd also feel
That's such an
hungover
important
and all
yeah,
these different things. So I had a
yeah,
great time, and I said to you the other day that I actually felt like I was on the same wavelength from an energy perspective as everyone around me who was completely drunk. My friend
yeah.
Theo, he was pushing these drinks on me all night, and he was so drunk to the point where we didn't even make it to the club that we were meant to go to afterwards because he was so drunk. And I felt like I was on his level of energy. From an outsider's perspective, from anyone who didn't know that night that I was sober, they would have thought, "That guy's he's having a good time. He's
I
clearly had a lot to drink."
I
Um,
watched your story and you looked drunk.
you replied to my story and said, "Is this the drunk bingo thing?" And I
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, cause I heard the story and then I heard, like, you tell me the story, and then I watched a video that someone took of it, and I was like, "Oh my god, it absolutely is the same." It
yeah,
absolutely is the same, and I definitely experienced that too and I think it goes along the lines of there are a lot of really important things we gotta touch on here. Number 1 is this distinction when you're in these moments of decision, and instead of focusing on the short-term dopamine rush, you're focusing on the long-term benefits, and when you're sitting there in a moment of decision and you decide to go for the long-term benefits, that's these decisions make up who you are, and these decisions propel you in life. This is like a choice to propel yourself as opposed to stay at the same level. That's the first thing I wanna touch on that was, like, super profound for anyone's listening. Put that on a fucking t-shirt, okay? Second thing I wanna say is as far as the wavelength goes, and this is also something we can chat about with another thing that you mentioned in your voice messages to me, was it being on the same wavelength as people around you, and I've noticed this too when I'm like, not drinking, like, when I'm around people who are drinking, I can feel, like, a little bit more wavy and drunk, even it's just, like, the energy, but at the same time, I still smoke weed, and it's funny because when I smoke and there are other people around me who don't smoke, they they act a little bit more high around me. They'll forget things, and they'll just be like, "Oh, like, where did I put my phone? Where did I put my keys?" They act high around me even though they're not. It is a very important distinction of you are who you surround yourself with, and I think a really important piece of the story that I want you to continue on is you had a lot of friends pushing drinks on you that night.
I did, yeah, and that was another yeah, the sort of, I guess, other main part of the story is that I it was quite late on. It was towards the end of the game, towards the end of bingo, and everyone was really drunk around me, and my 4 sort of boys disappeared to the bar, and I knew they'd gone to do shots or something, and they came back with everyone with Jaeger bombs, and they handed one to me, and I said, "Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not drinking tonight." And they said and my friend literally said to me word for word, he said, "I'm not asking you, I'm telling you." Right? "I'm not asking you, I'm telling you." And I was like, "No, I'm not drinking." And my girlfriend saw this whole thing happening, and she was like, "Guys, leave him alone, he's not drinking." So she backed me up. And it felt in that moment, honestly, I was saying no, and he kept pushing it, and he kept pushing. Eventually, I took the shot in my hand, and then I cheersed with them, and then I was just gonna give it to someone else, and I did. That's how it worked in the end. And they just let it go, and then they went and did their own thing. And I felt so weirdly, for about 5 minutes afterwards, I felt a little bit guilty. Like, I felt, A, he's bought that shot for me, and I didn't do it, right? Even though he knew I wasn't drinking. He still bought it for me, and so that's his money that he spent on me, and I wasn't grateful. I also felt so boring. I also thought in my mind, I was thinking, right now, they must think I'm so boring. And that was my own mind, I guess, maybe trying to convince me to drink in a way, because I then spoke to them about it. I spoke to my friends Theo and William about it afterwards. I said, I honestly, I felt so boring. You guys were offering shots and you were trying to get me to drink all night. And it made me feel really boring. And they both said to me, Josh, what you're doing is amazing. And the resistance you showed, William said to me, the resistance you showed with that shot was really inspiring. The mental strength to refuse that, even though they were pushing it really hard. So I was quite proud of that. I was quite proud of that. I think that was a big moment actually in my sobriety. Sounds like I'm an alcoholic, but it still is sobriety. I
Yeah,
think that was a
yeah.
big moment in my path to sobriety, because I really resisted. I really held back from them pushing, and also from not I wasn't being boring. I had a
Yeah.
fantastic time. I wasn't
Y
boring throughout the night, as you
No,
saw in
you're
the
not a
video,
boring
you know?
person when you go out.
No.
You're the opposite, and it's so interesting because, well, there are so many, like, nuggets of wisdom just in this experience because, number 1, when we set boundaries and not necessarily with it could be alcohol, it could be any type of boundary, we're gonna be met with at least the first couple of times specifically, you're gonna be met with a lot of resistance. Like, "Why are you doing this?" Like, someone pushing drinks on you, and any boundary you set, the person who the boundary you've create like, the person you've created the boundary with, they're not happy that you've created that boundary, so naturally, they're gonna push back. Like, you've created a wall, and naturally, they're trying to break it down, be like, "Why are you building a wall between us? I don't understand." And that happens a lot, and it's as long as you get through and maintain your boundaries, that's what's fortifying your kingdom, really, is building up these walls, strengthening your walls, protecting your castle. And second of all, the people who if you're choosing a life that's better for yourself, if you're up leveling, if you're doing something great for yourself, and again, if you're making boundaries and someone else is clearly the people who are pushing drinks on you are very triggered about what that means for them. Like they're almost projecting their beliefs about what alcohol is supposed to do on from you or on off of you or whatever. They're projecting because it says to them because they're pushing so hard, it says more to them about what it means to be not drinking or what it means for them to be drinking, and it says a lot about their characters, honestly. Like, it's been really interesting for me to see not drinking for I guess it's been 9 months now. Who in my life is pushing me and who in my life has been like, "Oh, cool. That's awesome." And they, like, ask why, they're curious. Sometimes they're like, "Why?" Or, like, they ask and you tell them and they're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And they're, like, perfectly content and perfectly cool with you sharing a non-alcoholic beverage and they can have whatever alcohol they want. But it also is, like, a really interesting test to see who are you surrounding yourself with? Are these people who are lifting you up, or are these people who are trying to drag you back down to their level?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing that I think we also spoke about is, or we didn't speak about it, but I
Let's
mentioned,
segue.
yeah, about the
Yeah.
kind of finding the right people. And we've spoken about this before, about how I've really built my community over the last couple of years. And I have so many friends now and a lot of close friends. I have a really strong inner circle these days. The people that I love and that I could absolutely lean on whenever I need to the point where I feel like right now it'd be very hard for me to feel lonely. It would take a lot for me to, I would have to completely isolate myself from the world. I have people I can lean on. But what I've started to think about recently is something that a bit of wisdom that I got from a fortune cookie on Saturday, which read, so I opened up a fortune cookie that my friend gave, and everyone in the group laughed at it, including myself. The fortune cookie said something along the lines of, expand your social horizons and you will benefit greatly. Something along those lines. And why that was so funny to everyone is because everyone knows me in the Yes Theory community as this hyper social. Everyone knows me. I don't need to be expanding my social horizons, right? And so we laughed it off, stupid fortune cookie. And then I was thinking about it afterwards, and I came to the conclusion that it means, probably, if you believe in fortune cookies, but I like to try and take meaning from whatever advice I'm given from them, that I need to surround myself with people who inspire me. who are going to push me to be better. Because right now, I feel like in my friendship group, I am in a way in a different stage of life to them. I've achieved a lot. And I think my closest friends, they wouldn't mind me saying this. I've achieved a lot more than a lot of my friends, than all of my friends. And I think from a career perspective, from a even romantic perspective, social perspective, from pretty much every area on the wheel of life, I'm in a better position than them. And so I don't have anyone above me in my direct. Obviously, I have you, I have my friends from the Tony Robbins community who aren't in London. So from a close physical perspective, I don't have people who I can look up to and inspire me. And so I really think proximity is power, and who you surround yourself with is who you become. And I
Yeah.
don't have that kind of, maybe that's why I feel so stagnant, partly because I think I'm surrounding myself with people who are in a completely different stage of life to me. And I need to start surrounding myself with people who push me and who I feel like I need to be on their level. So I work harder to get onto their level.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I mean, we'll say it again and again and again. You are who you surround yourself with, 100%. And if you're in a room of people and you're the most successful one there, you're the one who's the the most advanced in whatever area of life and you're looking to uplevel your life, if you're the most successful person there, you're probably in the wrong room. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to cut these people off, but if you guys haven't listened to episode like 1 or 2 where I go through the circles of friends and the circles of community around you, it might mean like bringing that inner circle one level out and then creating an inner circle that is super aligned with what you want. And, if you wanna be better, surround yourself with people who are better than you. If you wanna do something well in business or in your health, surround yourself with people who are experts in that or at least doing well in that. And I think a good example of this that I've seen in my own life is I think right now I have the opposite challenge where, especially my people in Miami, I'm the one I, like, look around in the room and I'm like, "Why am I the least successful one here?" Which is a good thing. It's a good thing that, like, I have so much room to go. Paul and I went to a party, and I didn't notice this because I'm not a watch person, but Paul noticed it. Every guy in there was rocking a Rolex. He's every person in that room, they're all married or engaged or in a serious relationship, and they are all successful in their careers, and they're all entrepreneurs, and they're all doing well and really healthy. And on some way and the crazy thing is I think it's imposter syndrome because in my head, I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm the least successful person here." And Paul was thinking the same thing, but then if you look externally, I'm also an entrepreneur in Miami who's super healthy. Paul is also an entrepreneur in Miami who's super healthy and making, like, great money now. Like, we are like, when you're in the room, you're like, "Oh, shit, I'm the least successful person here," but then when you actually realize it, you're like, "No, I'm actually on par with these people, but I do have room to grow." Like, I am inspired by the people I surround myself with in Miami. Like, I happen to be friends with people who are hosting wellness events and doing really amazing things, and it's cool to surround yourself with that because it gives you room to grow. But it does, like when you're in that position, it does give you imposter syndrome. So it's like choose your poison, but at the same time, if you wanna grow, you gotta be around people who are gonna push you and bring you up as opposed to drag you down, and I think it's a great example with your friends pushing you to drink, like, these people might be amazing people. They might be great friends to call if you're going through something or if you need a good laugh or need a good night out, but are they necessarily gonna be your inner circle that's gonna push you to be your best person in whatever area of life. And if it's not, then how do you adjust? And I'd say, I mean, we've done this exercise so many times, but I'd say like amazing homework for you to do would be to like literally write down a list of if you had this inner circle of people who inspired you, like what are the specific traits that they have? And then looking at that list and being like, am I showing up as that person every day?
Yeah, but it's also really interesting what you said about imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
because I think that's something that I suffer from quite strongly. I feel when I'm in a room of my current social circle, and I don't know if this sounds bad to say, I have spoken to my friends about this, but I feel like when I'm in a room of that current social circle or in a room full of yes theory people, and this is why I thrive so much in that environment because I feel in a way superior a little bit because I know that I'm in a very different place. I've achieved a lot for my age. And so I have this element of serious confidence. I think it's an ego thing that I feel insanely confident and that I could go into that room and go and talk to anyone, right? Because go and talk to anyone and then impress them with my stories. Whereas on the flip side, I get really nervous to attend networking events or even to go and hang out with my old school friends because a lot of my old school friends, if it's like a reunion, a school reunion, and I'm put in a room with them, a lot of them doing really well. They've got thriving careers. They're making a lot of money, traveling the world, living my dream life. And I feel almost intimidated by those people, and I can't thrive from a social perspective in that room because I am so in my head thinking, I'm so far below them. I'm so far behind them. Why would they talk to me? Why would they be interested in hearing what I have to say? Because they've got such better stories than me, or they've achieved so much more than me. And I honestly feel, and this might just be in my head, that I turn into a completely different person when I'm in those rooms. And I think that's just a confidence thing. I think that's a confidence thing, and that's probably
It might
about just
be
reframing it.
Yeah, I think it is a matter of reframing it. Is it a way to reframe it as opposed to, "Oh, I'm not feeling confident." And it could it be a reframe to, "How can I be more curious? How can I be more curious about how did these people get to where they're going?" And it's a difference. I think that's the main shift there. If you're the same with me going to that party and imposter syndrome. At the time, I was feeling great because I've known these people for so long and I was like, "Oh, yes, these feel like the right people for me." But let's say I'm in this room again and I'm not feeling super confident because all these people are more successful than me. It's a great opportunity for me to get curious and be like, "Hey, like, how did you end up starting this thing? Like, how did you were to start all over? What's one thing that you could do to speed up the process? Like, how can you get more curious about it to learn?" Because at the end of the day, if we like, we're all just students of life, and it's really intriguing. But I would definitely get super clear about what that is, and then see how you can surround yourself with those people and figure out, are you showing up as that person every day? But I do want to touch on imposter syndrome like, more, but in a different direction, if you're cool with
Yeah, of
me shifting.
course.
Okay. So one thing we did not talk about on the voice messages, because I specifically saved it for the pod, is something I've been really challenged with the last couple of weeks has been this is my second podcast. I have my own podcast, Visualize Meditations, for anyone who's interested in visualization meditations. It's anywhere you get your podcasts. So I do that, and I do that all by myself. So I don't have a co-founder there. I do all of the recording, editing, I do all the marketing, and that's where a lot of my focus has been going because right now I'm producing the product of the podcast and I'm pretty content with the quality of it right now, but I'm working on the marketing of it and I'm really feeling challenged with it because I've been feeling really challenged with it because I found a strategy. I've been working with this strategy for 3 months. So keep in mind, 3 months, not enough time to see any results. And part of the strategy is I have these prompts and I talk to the camera with my ideas about, for example, like the do's and don'ts of building your career, right? And I sit there and I talk to the camera with my mic as I am right now. And I give these people the tips, and then I sit there and I'm like, "Who the fuck am I to give these people advice about their careers?" Like, it just gives me so much imposter syndrome. I'm like, "Who's gonna listen to me? Like, what value do I have to bring? I don't like, who would possibly listen to me? Like, don't know anything, right?" And I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome that plays in that way. And I was, doom scrolling, kill me, but I was doom scrolling and something I came across was 'cause, for the last couple weeks, I've been saying like, "Oh, talking to the camera doesn't feel aligned, like something feels off about it." And I came across something that said, "Does something not feel aligned because you're not seeing results yet, or does something not feel aligned because it's actually not aligned?" And I've only been doing this 3 months. Maybe it's not necessarily about changing and pivoting all the time. Maybe it's about sticking with it and just changing my intention going into it because I've been feeling a lot of imposter syndrome around it. And I'm so focused in that business in the last couple of months. I've been so focused on how can I make more money with this? How can I get more from this business? Like, how can I take more? And I was thinking about it in some deep reflection. And I was like, as opposed to considering how what I can receive from this business, I need to shift my perspective to what value can I bring in this business? And then I had this profound thought, and we've talked about this a little bit on the voice messages. Not necessarily not only what value can I bring to this business and what value can I bring to my clients, how can I have this area or how can I have this intention in all areas of life? How can I add more value to my relationship? How can I give more in my friendships? How can I give more to myself with my health? Like, how can I give more as opposed to how can I receive more? And I was thinking, I was like, okay, there's so many just like t-shirt quotes in here. Okay. Just if anyone needs to take notes or go back, listen again. I was thinking, I was like, okay, basically manifestation is asking for what you want, being patient about the timing of when it's coming, and giving as much energy and value as you possibly can into the universe and just not waiting, but being patient to receive what you asked for and knowing that whatever you're receiving is what you should be receiving. If it's a lesson, if it's actually what you wanted, whatever. It's something I've really been sitting on. So as far as going back to the marketing of it all, I sat down and I had a brainstorm yesterday about, okay, who is my client? Who is my customer? And I know my customer because I mean, I am my customer, but also I have a close friend who is pretty much the perfect example. So it's really easy for me to be like, okay, what would she need? What value could I bring her? It's easy to visualize a specific person. So what value can I bring to my client? What are their desires? What are their fears? And how can I show up for them? And I think I might change my perspective a little bit on the marketing, like, I'm still gonna keep in these talking videos, and even though they feel rough and even though I'm feeling imposter syndrome, I'm going to keep them because what I'm saying is valuable, and I know people are listening, and I think I'm just feeling resistance towards it because I'm not seeing the numbers and the results that I want immediately, right? So that's, like, patience and perseverance there, but I do think I can add more value by being more entertaining because I think I've kept it a little stale, like, I'm treating it as a job as opposed to having fun. Like, how can I have more fun when I'm creating the content? How can I make it more entertaining? I'm very personal in the marketing of my podcast, but how can I tell stories as opposed to tell them things that I do? And people wanna listen to stories, they don't wanna listen to statistics. How can I make it more personal to me so that if someone's watching my content or listening to my content, they feel like they know me, and they feel like they're my friend and I'm their friend. So, it's been a really interesting perspective shift, but, imposter syndrome's been coming up a lot with that, and there's been a lot to uncover there as far as, like, how to go about continuing. It's like, how when do you know when to pivot? When do you know when to keep on your path? Anyway, that was just a
You
fucking
just
brain
you
fart.
just you keep that it's not about not when to pivot, when to keep on your path. I think if something's not working, obviously then you veer away and you try a different path, right? But if you believe what you're doing is if you if you're enjoying it, but also if you are seeing the results, then keep on that path. Or even if you're seeing like slight results, you need to notice what you're doing right and keep doing that right. I love the whole given you shall receive shift because that's so important in anything. As you just said yourself, it shows up in every single area of your life. But I think from a social media side of things, it's so important to have that mindset because keep posting what you're posting, but you've also got to think about who is my target audience? What do they want? How can I reach them? And I think that's the most important distinction actually is how you can reach them in the first place. Because right now, I mean, how are you doing well on it from views or are you getting many views on your videos?
Honestly, I should be looking at the data more. I'm not. As far as I'm doing it specifically TikTok, Instagram, Twitter is super low. Twitter's just there basically. TikTok, I'm seeing consistently 7 to 800 views per video, which isn't bad, isn't great, but isn't bad. But I do get more engagement on TikTok than I do on I like, the content itself, I gotta check the reels. I know the actual photo posts don't do very well, maybe a handful of likes, like, it's not anything profound. I mean, my follower count's going up, but I think that's just because I'm, like, sharing everything to my personal Instagram because
Right.
I'm like, if anyone resonates with the content, go ahead. And I even think it's like a matter of showing my personality more on my personal Instagram. I'm modeling the strategy I've been following, I mean, I'm following a strategy from a mutual friend that we know, but a person that I'm really inspired by who also has a podcast is Alex Cooper. And I know her personal she keeps the podcast platform as podcast, like, content, but then her personal platform is she'll reshare all the podcast content, but then you get her personality on her personal, and I think I'm also not showing up enough on the personal, and people really like when I'm there and when I'm honest and when I'm showing my personality on my regular stuff. They really enjoy it. I get a lot of great feedback. I get a lot of great engagement when I'm just showing up as myself and telling them all the unhinged things that I'm feeling and thinking. But I don't necessarily see that translate. I think my approach is I'm going to keep with it. I think the 3 things that I can do is number 1, I've obviously been thinking about this a lot. Number 1, just continue on doing what I'm doing. Number 2, add in, like, how creating content and having fun making it, because I think that energy shows up when you post it. If you're having fun making it and you're feeling inspired making it and whatever, like, it's more entertaining for the people watching. So, showing up and having more fun, throwing in some more personal stuff in there, not necessarily like personal story, but maybe it's like a little bit more unhinged, maybe it's a little bit more silly, maybe it's like a little bit more me. And number 3, I just had I think also showing up on my personal platform, just, like, showing who I am
Yeah.
as a human being so that people get to know me. So,
And have
I'm
you
gonna do a deep dive this week or sorry, today on, like, actually brainstorming what that looks like with each piece of content, but we'll see. So,
yeah,
everything's, like, a month out.
that was actually my
That
question
was
is have you brainstormed? But also I think, have you looked into sort of jumping on the algorithm wave? Because have you looked at what else other people that do similar things to what you're doing or similar sort of audiences to the audience that you're targeting? Have you looked at what they're doing and how they're getting the views? Because it's not an original way to do things, which I don't like. And unfortunately, that is the way social media works. The reason that these dance trends on TikTok, that these stupid dances that actually have no skill or anything, but they use a particular audio and they do a particular dance and they get millions of views because unfortunately that's just the way the algorithm works. And it's not
yeah,
about doing stupid dances because obviously that's not what you're about and not what your podcast is about, but it's about
yeah,
looking at what other people in a similar market are doing well and using that to your advantage, basically.
yeah. I mean, as far as the people I'm studying, there are, I'd say, like, 4 to 5 influencer I know not even influencers, there are 4 to 5 business people, content creators, whatever you wanna call them, because 'cause they're definitely not influencers. I think the difference there is influencers are selling you products that brands are, like, doing. I'd say business people who are utilizing the platform are converting you to their own business and their own revenue. So it's a different model completely. I'd say there are 4 to 5 people on there that I actually study. I take time to study and I'm like, "Okay, so what are they doing?" And I find that for the most part, it's what I'm saying now. It's they're especially with the manifestation, the visualization, stuff like that, they're showing their results. Let's say let's say it's a manifestation visualization. They're showing the results. They're showing, like, the luxury lifestyle they manifested, or they're showing the luxury travel that they've been able to afford because they're making so much in their business. And then once they get you hooked onto, "Okay, this is the lifestyle I've created for myself using my tools. Here are some free trainings," basically content that's educational, and then convert you. So it's 3 things. It's, like, who you are, and showing the results, showing your personality so they know you. Number 2 is educating them. So that's what I'm so focused on right now is I'm doing all education, but, like, no personal. I mean, I'm doing some personal, but I don't think not quite there yet. Like, I'm telling some stories, but it's not necessarily all the way. But I'm not, like, sharing the results. Anyway, so number 2 is educational, number 3 is conversion. So it's like, how do I convert them? So it's also the sales funnel. It's the same thing as fucking sales funnel. It's like awareness, education, conversion.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, today I'm doing like, I've done the brainstorm on this strategy. Today I'm doing the brainstorm about, okay, what are the pieces of content A, B, C, D, E, F, G that I can actually post? And again, I'm not even gonna start seeing results from this for a while, but I just wanna make sure that I'm not pivoting every 5 seconds because a strategy in order for a strategy to work, you have to stick with it for a while. I've only been doing this current strategy for 3 months, and I don't think I'm changing it necessarily. I think I'm just adding to it because I was working on the sales funnel strategy before. It's just now I think I have a little bit more of a clear perspective on how I wanna do it, and maybe it's just adding to it, but I won't be able to start everything all the content is planned out a month in advance, so I'm not gonna this won't start being posted for at least a month and a half.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're doing the right things, and the fact of the matter is you're not giving up. You're aware and you're self-aware, and you're changing your approach if you need to. But I think the main thing is that you're keeping on a path. I mean, you talked about when do I figure out when to pivot or stay on the same path. You're staying on a path and you're moving forward, you're taking a step forwards, and eventually it will come to fruition. Eventually it will work out. I think social media is a patience game. And it's not just social media, everything is, right? You've got to persevere, you've got to keep going, you've got to keep plugging away, even when the results aren't necessarily going your way. It reminds me of that. It's not a meme, is it? There's a photo, it's like a cartoon of these two different miners. You know what I'm talking about? And they're digging for diamonds. You will know exactly what I'm talking. I'm sure we've spoken about this before. There's a cartoon and it's a photo, and there's these two like diggers, right? And they've got
Okay.
like pickaxes and they're digging away. And one of them, so there's two of them on top of each other. One of them, he looks disappointed as he turns away and walks away from the diamonds. And the other one, he breaks through that final bit of wall, that final bit of mud, and there's just like a gold mine of diamonds. There's loads of them there,
Mm,
right? And so one of them, it's the story of how two people, one of them gives up just before they hit gold, and the other one was one step away and they pushed through and they hit gold. That is what life is, and you've got to keep plugging away, and eventually you will get the views and you will get the followers and you will get the money and the results.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's just I mean, that's what business is, right? It's just perseverance and it's been what, like a year, almost a year and a half I've been doing this first business. And I mean, just with the perseverance itself, it took me a whole year to actually start making revenue from it. So now that I started making revenue, now it's okay. I've shifted my focus from actually producing the podcast, producing the content, which I finally have locked down to how can I attract the right audience? How can I attract the client that I can bring the most value to? And again, it's a shift in perspective between not what can I get from this business, but what can I give to this business? What can I give to these target customers? Because if I'm approaching the podcast and the content with how can I provide as much value as possible to my ideal target client, then the right person will be attracted to it, and the right person who needs that value will find me, basically. Build it and they will come, basically. So, those are my thoughts around it. It's just, okay, like, taking that and putting it into actual practical things. I love the strategy of it, but it's, like, the actual carrying it out that I'm like, "But that's just the work of it all."
Yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
same in other areas, not just with sort of business or I love the strategy and putting things, coming up with the ideas and how I'm going to do it. And then it's the actual kind of putting it into action and actually doing it. That's what I really struggle with in
Yeah,
every
and
area of life.
speaking of which, because that's what this mastermind moments is that we're sitting here and we're strategizing about how to improve our lives, but it actually means nothing unless we take what we're masterminding about and going in, putting it into practice in our own lives. Like it literally is just pointless if we don't put these things into action. And one thing I want to follow up with you about, speaking of like homework and action, and you'll see it if you listen to this podcast, you'll see some weeks we do our homework, some weeks we don't. And that's what life is. I've been very good about my morning routine, but only Monday through Friday and only when I'm home in Miami. Like I'm not great about it other places. One thing I want to ask about is how are you doing? And if you haven't listened to the episodes, 1 or 2 episodes back, please go do how are you doing with the waking up at 6:06 AM?
Yeah, it's not happening. Um,
Why?
there is a real mental block there, and I can pull up my phone right now and I can show you my alarm. My only alarm is 6:06 a.m. Okay,
Yeah.
I set it every single morning. My alarm goes off at 6:06, and there is a mental block in my mind, and I don't know how to move past it. I don't know how to move past it because I
Okay.
know deep down that the only way that I'm going to achieve my goals, live the dream life that I've blueprinted for myself, that I've drawn up for myself, I know how to do it. 6:06 a.m. sort of an early start is going to be such help. It's given me an extra 3
Yeah.
hours, 2 hours even to my day that I can use for other things, for side hustles, for gym, for all these different things that I can't do because I'm too busy, work and social for the rest of the day.
Yes.
So what happens is, I can tell you what happened this morning, what happened yesterday. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
perfect copy.
What's this block? What happens from, like, the moment the alarm goes
The
off?
alarm goes off, and in my head, the night before, I've psyched myself up. I'm like, and the strategy I've tried recently is just not to think about it, right? Because the more I think about it, the less quality of sleep I'm going to get. And because I'm going to be stressing about waking up. So I've just stopped thinking about it and I get a great night's sleep, at least 7 hours. And I wake up at 6:06. And in my head, I have two options. I can either go to the gym, come back, start working on side hustles, whatever it is. I have a few different ideas ticking away at the moment. But I can either do that, and that's optional in my mind. Even though without doing that, I am not going to achieve my goals. But in my mind, it's optional. What's not optional is waking up by 9 a.m. So I'll wake up at
Right?
8:50 because I start work at 9 a.m. I have to be at my desk or I'll lose my job. So that's not
Yeah.
optional. I have to.
Yeah.
So I that goes through my head in a very shorter version, right? And I think to myself, right, I need the extra 3 hours of sleep. So I'm going to go back to sleep and wake up at 8:50 a.m. So I then go and set an alarm for 8:50 and wake up then. So I have just about enough time to brush my teeth, wash my face, and then jump on the computer for work.
Right.
That's the block at the moment. I feel like 6:06 is optional and the things I would do in those 3 hours are optional. Whereas I can keep living my comfortable life at 9 a.m. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to move anywhere in my life. I'm going to stay where
Right,
I
and
am.
that's just right, it's a matter of staying in your comfort zone or getting out of your comfort zone, and also it's a matter of and not to bring Tony Robbins quotes into this, but I have to because it's so relevant. Right now, the waking up at 6:06 AM is a should, quote, "should wake up at 6:06," and you have to make it a must. Like, and I always laugh at myself when I quote Tony Robbins because I'm like, "Who the fuck am I?" But you right now, you're seeing it as optional, and you're not seeing it as mandatory, and also I think it's an important shift too where it's that same moment of decision that you have with the drinking where it's, are you focusing on the short-term benefit or on the long-term gain? And you made that decision with the drinking, and now we just need to apply that for the waking up, but I also think those are, like, the strategies and the mental strategies, but let's be fucking real, at 6:06 AM, you're exhausted and, like, your eyes are not open, whatever. I think there are some actual tactical steps that we could try. Number 1, maybe you plug in your phone or your alarm on the other side of the room, and you have to physically get out of bed to go turn off the alarm, and even if it means you have to sit on the floor for 5 minutes or lay down on the floor for 5 minutes, that's okay. Like, for me, it takes me 10 minutes from, like, alarm to wake up to, like, actually become alive. Like, takes me 10 minutes, and I know that. So, maybe it's that time, but, like, actually physically getting out of bed, or maybe it means buying a physical alarm clock. I saw this one that I thought about that you would really like. They have an alarm clock that replicates sunrise light and it actually wakes you up with,
I've
like,
seen those.
light.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, that would be really cool. So, maybe it's just a matter of that strategy, like, these small little things to make the habit easier.
Yeah. I know what I need to do. And I think getting up and actually out of bed is probably a good option in my
Yeah.
apartment. So when I'm moving back in on Saturday, I'm at my mum's at the moment. And in my apartment, I've got a wireless charger on the other side of the room so that I never use it. I only use it when I'm sitting at my desk, but I can just plug it in there and set the
Yeah.
alarm instead of plugging it in at my wire next to my bed so that I can just roll over and turn it off. I think that's a good idea. But I also think about every time that I've woken up early and I don't want to wake up. And we're talking 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning, all of these ridiculous times that I've had to wake up for something, whether it be a flight, whether it be a work trip or something like that. It's always one of those, and I don't have a choice but to wake up, so I do.
Yeah.
And I feel disgusting for maybe 15 minutes, right?
Right.
Then I leave the house and I feel fine on the walk to
Mhm.
wherever I'm going. And a good example is when I used to go to work, I leave my house at 7:30 in the morning. When I used to work in the office, it'd take me an hour to get into work. So I'd leave my house at 7:30. I'd wake up at 7 and I'd feel horrible. Every single morning I'd feel horrible. But I never called
Yeah.
in sick because that's not me. I would end up feeling horrible, getting dressed feeling horrible, and by the time I got on the train and I'd be sitting on the train, I'd be wide awake. Because my
Yeah.
plan would always be, I'm like, "Oh god, you know what? I'm just gonna wake up now and I'll sleep on the train." But by the time I got to the train, because it was a 10-minute walk and I'd already been up for 10 minutes or 20 minutes by that point, I was already wide awake, so I didn't need to sleep on the train. So it is literally a case of just pushing myself to get up, and I'll be
Yeah.
fine. It's just that initial push, and I think getting out of bed to turn the alarm off is a good idea.
Yeah, try it. See how it feels. We can that's the whole point of masterminding is that we can mastermind, like, different ideas about how you can actually get out of bed. Another really good tool if the getting out of bed doesn't work or things that we can try is for me, a great same thing with the flight is a really good thing because same for me, like, I don't like to wake up early unless I have something, but this morning I took a which is why we're running a little late, I took a 7:30 AM yoga class. And I knew if I didn't show up for this yoga class, they're gonna charge me, right? And I have to get up early because I had to scooter there on my electric scooter. And because I had something holding me accountable, even if that means like a buddy that will meet you at the gym or like a workout class you're gonna go to or something that's holding you accountable, even if it's me or if I don't know, I'm like however many hours, 6 hours or something ahead of you? No,
5 hours
behind you.
behind, yeah, so that wouldn't work.
Oh, that wouldn't
But
work.
Savita has offered so my girlfriend has offered multiple times, she said, because she's always up at 6:30, she said, "If I don't get a text from you by 6:30, I can call you, and that will wake you up, and then you're talking
Yeah.
to me, and you have someone to hold you accountable, and I'll be pissed off if you don't answer." There is that extra layer of accountability, but I that means turning vibrate on my phone, and I hate doing that. It just makes me feel weird, and I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, so I've refused that option.
Maybe it means turning the alarm like, the sound on.
Maybe, maybe.
The sound on, vibrate off, like, whatever.
Yeah,
I know when Paul and I we did a challenge one month where we woke up at 5 AM every day, and we would text each other, be like, "Are you up? Yep, I'm up. Okay, great." It could be a matter of that too, but, like, maybe actually just try setting your and another great tip from Juan, who we heard from in our little voice message, his fiancée set his ring to his, alarm on his phone to the Avengers theme song because he's a
nice.
big Marvel fan. I mean, so am I, which is why we bonded over it. But I don't know if there's, like, a song or something that you could make your alarm that, like, gets you going, you
So
know?
I've tried that before, and I just end up hating the song.
You might just have to, like you might and maybe it's a song that you hate, so you would just wanna turn it the fuck off,
Maybe.
and, like, you have to get up or whatever that is.
Yeah,
But I'd say the best thing is just put your phone on the other side of the room, try that, and let's see how it goes.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a very good idea. And so today, I really wanted to I set my alarm for 6:06, and I was like, "You know what? Sasha knows that I haven't been waking up because I told you the other day." And
Yeah.
I really wanted to come on today and say, "Guess what? I did it." And I didn't.
Y Oh my god. If I was time-wise ahead of you, I would call you every day at
Yeah.
6:06, but I'm behind, so that's not gonna happen. But and that's the other thing is I'm holding you accountable, but because I'm holding you accountable weekly as opposed to daily, like, maybe leaning on your girlfriend, but definitely try that strategy. Put your phone on the other side of the room, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm gonna
Yeah,
start trying that for sure.
yeah, should be good. But I'm trying to think, there were so many other things. I wanted to touch on yeah, there are so many things from your voice message that I think we touched on all the things from your
I
voice
think
message,
pretty
right?
much. I mean, I've written my manifesto that I told you about.
Oh, right. You
So,
know what? Save that for
yeah,
next
because
week,
that's
and
a
I'll go
lot.
through
That's a lot.
yeah, maybe that'll be a whole episode because I'll go through I have my long-term goals I, like, literally have all my notebooks next to me in case we decided to do that.
Nice.
I can go through also my long-term goals for Wheel of Life too. I don't have a manifesto quote, but we could do that. Something I mean, we only have a couple minutes left, but something I wanted to touch on, and we could always touch on it next week too, is I've been also feeling pretty challenged financially.
Mm.
Oh, wait, no, something I wanna touch on with you is your tax bill was sorted out.
Yes, I
You're
decided
done.
okay, so something I briefly mentioned to you was about savings and how I have savings and I wanna start using them, and I basically came to the conclusion that I have the saving if I wanted to just pay it off. I could just do that, and at this point, I've built it up over a few months or whatever. I could just pay it off in one go, but it would hurt. It would really sting me, and I would be so upset with the seeing that balance go down, and I've worked so hard for that money, and I've invested that money, and so suddenly to see it just get completely destroyed out of not out of nowhere, it was coming, but I really wanted to stay away from that, but actually I thought, again, what am I saving for? I've bought an apartment. That money is there to be enjoyed and not to cause me stress, and I should enjoy that money. I should look at that money and think,
Well,
"Well,
it
I'm gonna
depends on
use
the
that."
saving, though,
It Right, okay.
because, like, you are a homeowner, right? God forbid some there's a I don't know, God forbid you have a leak and you need it fixed and you gotta drop, like, 20,000
Yeah.
pounds on something. Like, it is a it's if it's savings, it is a rainy day fund, and I think you gotta figure out what is the amount that you need in there that if anything happened, you're good, and
So
just making sure you have a minimum in
so
there.
I actually have a separate account just for the apartment, which
Okay.
basically every excess amount of money that is left over every month goes into that account. And we've
Yeah.
built it up quite significantly now to the point where it's basically the idea is that's used to pay the bills, that's going to be used to pay for any repairs. And at the moment, unless we had something really serious happen, there's enough money in there to cover it. And it will just keep being built up and up. So that's the way to counter that. If there was something really serious to happen, but I've been thinking about it, I can't think what I would need to use that money for, right? And in my mind, you never know, of course, but in my mind, I've just been thinking that money is there to be enjoyed. And especially that pot, because I have different pots of savings. As I've just mentioned, there's one for the apartment, there's one for investments, but this one pot that's just sitting there in a low interest savings account is there to be enjoyed. And so I've decided to pay off that tax bill, get that out
Okay.
of the way. So the stress of that is in the background, is sorry, no
Yeah.
longer in the background. And now I can just use that money as I please. I can go traveling, which I've now suddenly booked a bunch of travel for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a great way to celebrate writing doing that tax bill.
Yeah, and also to
Yeah.
use it potentially for side hustles. I've got a few
Yeah.
ideas. Something I was actively working on today, just when I finished my work, was flipping. Literally just buying TVs and phones and flipping them. And,
Yeah. If you wanted to chat about that with somebody, talk to Paul because he used to do that,
oh,
like, full
nice.
time. Not
Okay.
full time, but he used to do that a lot with, do you remember, like, the PlayStation 5?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so hard to get it, and I remember that year, he must have bought he had, like, bots at the time. He must have bought, like, 50 of them or
Oh my
something, like,
God.
over the span of a long time, and
Yeah.
I we have a photo of him somewhere with 30 PS5 stacked everywhere, and he would buy them and resell them for crazy money, especially during the holidays. So if you need help with that, definitely talk to Paul.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah. I mean, I literally started researching it today and I sent 50 messages on Facebook Marketplace to people. But I can use my savings for that as well. But there's no emergencies that I would need to dip into that particular account for. So I might as
Right.
well just start enjoying.
I mean, at the same yeah, yes, and you never know what's gonna happen in life, so I would say for yourself, come up with a number, if that's 10, 20, 30,000, whatever that number is of God forbid something happened,
Yeah.
and you would need to pull money out for something, what that minimum number is, and just make sure that amount is in the account.
Mm.
That's it. And I don't know what that number is for you, it's different for everybody, it's different for everybody, so figure out what that number is and then stick with it, but for the most part, amazing on the tax bill and, like, amazing that you're getting to travel again, and we can start building out that pot, that pile to uplevel the finances and get it going.
Yeah, I think I'm in a good place, I think, for transformation, for change, and I
Mhm.
think there is big change on its way. I need to push through it, and I think from the financial side of things, there is gonna be a shift soon. I think now that I've
Yeah.
sorted the tax thing, there's gonna be a big shift.
Yeah, I think so, I think so. I feel like recently and we can touch on it briefly, right? We can always go into the depth more next week or the week after or whatever, whenever. But I've been feeling pretty challenged financially, and it's not that I'm nothing's changed, but I started realizing my sis basically, we're gonna be moving apartments within a year or so, and I asked my sister, who's an interior designer, like, "How much should I budget for furniture?" Renovation is hard because we don't know what kind of place we're buying, right? If the place requires no renovation, we're good, but I like to things to feel personal, and especially after living in this place for 2 years, I want to live in a spot that feels like home and feels homey, and I wanna love everything in my space, and I am a bougie bitch, okay? So I asked my sister, I'm like, "How much do I need to budget for furniture?" And she gave me a number. The number is, I mean, it was around what I was expecting. I accounted for the fact that you have really luxury taste and the fact I can get you everything it costs, whatever, and I'm like, "Okay, this is a huge thing I need to save for." In addition to the other things that I wanna save for, right? Buying an apartment, in addition to potentially buying a boat and making that a business, in addition to my rhinoplasty, there are things that I want to save for, these really huge things, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, "How am I gonna do this?" And it's for some things, like the apartment and the boat, whatever, like, that can be a longer term goal. There's no cap on that, but the furniture for this apartment, there's a deadline, and I don't really know quite what it is yet because we don't know when we're buying this
Mm,
apartment. It should be within the next year or so, so I have, like, about a year-ish, maybe,
yeah.
to save out this amount of money, and I'm like, "How am I gonna do this?" I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And you don't have any ideas?
Khakis? I don't know. Like, I'm not really sure what the best thing for me to do is. Part of me is just ask the universe and, just know that it's gonna happen, put the work in, like, what I was saying before, ask for that amount to the universe, put in as much work and as much value as I can into my life, and then wait for the universe to give that money to me if that looks like work, if that looks like somehow manifesting a bunch of money. I don't know. I don't know like, I haven't tactically figured it out, but part of me is, do I just not worry about it and just know that the money will be there when the time
Or do
comes?
you know how much you need?
Yeah.
Okay. And then if
Okay, I
you
need about 50, okay, I'm just gonna say, I need about 50K
yeah, okay.
for furniture.
Right, and then have you broken down what that would look like each month and how you can basically breaking it down into smaller goals?
Fair, fair. No, I have not because I don't know. It's gonna be when we buy the apartment,
Yeah,
right? But I don't know when we're buying it. So I don't really have a I know it's gonna be probably within a year,
okay.
but I don't know specifically. Like, if I had a month of, "Oh, by January, I need to have an extra 50K saved." Like, it's not, I don't have a date yet.
Right, okay, but you have a rough idea maybe as to what season it's gonna
Honestly, I don't. Like, I know that we're gonna start seriously because 'cause we're renewing our lease. I thought we were gonna be moving in November, but we need more time just with the logistics of how we're buying this apartment. No, I don't know. I thought it was gonna be November, but now it's looking like it's probably gonna be in about because it's probably gonna be about a year, I think.
I still think is about getting specific, and
Okay.
obviously you don't necessarily have an end goal in sight, so it's hard to say how much you need to break it down to each month or because you don't know how many months it's gonna be,
Yeah.
but you can still break it down in other ways as to what that looks like. Just make this of 50K, it seems like a huge goal. It seems like a huge mountain right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I could grab it. I mean, like, I have that amount, but it's, like, on top of it's, like, almost that amount, but on top of what I'm already saving elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like a surplus
An
50K.
extra 50K. Yeah. Okay. And then you need to break down, I guess, where is that money coming from? You don't know at the moment, right?
I mean, like, I could be saving it from, like, I save 25% of my paycheck every other week. Like, the business is creating revenue, but again, not a ton right now. Like, it's just creating revenue, but whatever. I don't know. Part of me is just ask and you shall receive, maybe. Like, maybe I just ask for it and just, instead of trying to force it, just knowing that it's gonna, when the money needs to be there, it's gonna be there, and, like, almost taking a more spiritual approach with it,
Yeah.
because I'm just stressing myself out over this thing that's like, I don't even know when.
No. I think that's an important mindset to have. Ask and you shall receive, but also you need to give and you shall receive. You need to give
Yeah.
everything you've got to put that energy out there. but you also work on that. And again, I think breaking it down into smaller goals as to, okay, how much do I need by December? Make yourself a small goal. By December, I need to have saved X amount, and then you can figure out how you're going to get to that level in however long it's going to take.
Right, right. Yeah, that's the plan. That's absolutely the plan. So we can touch more on, like, the finances and stuff because this was, like, pretty rushed. We can touch on it more at some point because I think we should do more of a deep dive in
Definitely.
just in general. Like, I really it's on my list to review my financial plan. Like, at the beginning of the year when I went to health and wealth, I sat down and I was like, "Okay, what is my plan?" Right? And things have changed since then.
Mm,
Things have changed since then. So I just wanna go and review my plan, and maybe that's, like, something to go through in the manifesto too, something to think about. So
yeah.
we can go over it next week, but in the meantime, I'll sit on that and reflect on that
Oh,
this week, and in the meantime, you should wake up at 6:06 every day.
abs-
I don't can't
I
remember,
feel like
do I
this
have
has been.
homework?
I feel like this has been my homework like every week for the last month, but it happened maybe once in that time.
We can do it, we can do it. Did I have homework or no?
What was your home? You did. I forgot what it was though.
I mean, I'll edit this video and I'll find out what my homework was.
There was something.
Or not edit this video, I'll edit this. Yeah, yeah, there was something. Oh, you know what? I have to just focus on the marketing, really. I just
Right.
have to,
Okay.
like, brainstorm actual content to basically just do the marketing,
Okay.
I guess. And if I edit this and it comes back up, this is what happens every week is by the end of the episode, I'm like, "Oh shit, our homework." We should get in the habit of writing it down
Actually
for
writing it down.
ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, writing it down and then because what's happening now is I'm editing the episode and then texting you, be like, "By the way, your
Yeah.
homework is XYZ." But then if I don't edit the episode for a couple of days, like, we lose out on that
Yeah.
time. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
anyway, we'll chat next week, and we'll see you guys. Well, make sure to listen to everything, guys, and thanks if you made it this far into the episode, thanks.
Thank you.
Alright, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow along on social media.
If you would like us to help you mastermind something in your life, please send us a message.
We'll see you next week on the Mastermind Moments podcast.